Hello, in this episode of Classic Topology Problems, I'll show you how you can isolate problem areas, specifically poles or high valence vertices. So what do I mean by that? Well, let me just start by making this box. Alright, I'm going to center this, and there we go. Alright, let's just start doing some modeling here. So let's say I want there to be a curve here, so I'm going to insert, let's say, 3 segments, and I'm just going to move. Alright, let's say I also want to create some sort of detail on the side here, so I want to insert 2 segments first to put it right here, and then let's say right here. Alright, so I'm going to select that, and I'm going to just, inset, and then I will extrude inwards or outwards to get this right here. Alright, so this is a very good example of what you don't want to do. Now, we can do this either with support loops or creases. However, with both situations it will look bad, but with loops it will look especially bad. But I want to show that it looks bad in both situations. So pretty much here what I would do is I will insert loops. Alright, let's say here, and let's also get right there. Alright, so if I turbo smooth here, you can see what happens. You can see you get really bad distortion happening right here. So from some angles, well, here it looks fine because we don't really see it, but definitely from all of the angles, it's very noticeable right here. So in this situation, this vertex with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 edges is a problem area. We want to isolate that. So instead of being right next to the side right here, right next to this crucial area that we want to remain sharp, we're going to instead have this kind of topology instead. And of course we would also have a loop going right here, for example. So as you can see, we've isolated that trouble vertex to right here and not to this more important area on the left where it will cause problems. Alright, it's causing problems here because we don't have loops here, but you can see how it looks much better now. So also let's see how even if you're using creases, it can also mess things up. So even with creases, we still want to have some loops here and here just for better subdivision. Alright, so I'm going to use crease set. Alright, I will add this as well. Alright, let's create a set here, and let's open subdiv. Alright, so we are getting some problems here because when you are using crease sets, you don't really want to have inset. That's another issue entirely. But let's focus right here. You can see from some angles it kind of looks fine, maybe right here when you have the good lighting, but from here you can see definite distortion happening here. From the top you can definitely see distortion happening right here. So with creases it's a little bit less noticeable, but still something you want to avoid, because if you have this all over your model, it will become very distracting noticeable. So the better way to model this would be to isolate that detail beforehand. So even if you're using creases, it makes a lot of things easier, less need for loops and edges everywhere, but you still want to use edges for this kind of situation. So what I would do instead is I would isolate that. So I would have a loop here, and then let's say right there, and maybe here, and now we can do that detail right through here. And also, I don't really like to use inset in these situations because it will produce bad results with creases, and we just want to minimize this. So what I would do instead is to have loops exactly where I want the detail to take place and not rely on insets. There we go. Alright, another example where it's not necessarily about vertices with 5 or more edges. Let's say I create another box right here. Alright, and so at a poly, I'm going to tessellate this. So let's say in this situation, I'm going to have bad example on the left, good example on the right. Let's say I want to create some sort of circular detail inside of here. So I will select this, inset. Now you can see here, these vertices still have 4 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's not a vertex with 5 edges. So I will regularize that. Alright, get something like this, for example. And I would do the same thing here, but beforehand I'm going to isolate this by inserting loops through here. In this situation, it's not necessarily loops for sharpness, because if I want sharpness I would move them much closer. It's just loops for good topology to minimize distortion. As you can see, I've isolated that because we now have these loops kind of protecting the subdivision from bad things, bad distortion happening. Alright, now one nice thing about 3ds Max, we can actually crease multiple objects. So I can select both of these objects, apply the same crease set, press 2, go into edge. Let's increase this value, make sure we don't have any unnecessary edges, and let's give them both the same sharpness, let's say 0.22. Alright, when I apply Open Subdiv, let's go to 3 iterations. You can see the one on the right has the necessary sharpness that I want, whereas the one on the left gives us this right here. We have to go to a much higher value, and it's still not as sharp as what we have here on the right because we have isolated the results. Now, of course, if you want smoothness on this detail, then the topology on the left is fine, but if you want to have that sharpness there, it's a better idea to isolate that first. Whereas if you want to have a very smooth edges here, and what I would do in this situation is select these edges. And then just give them their own set right here. Then we can have a very smooth result happening here. Alright, and now an example in Blender as well. So I'm just going to Shift A mesh plane. Alright. I will rotate that. Make sure that's set to 90. Alright. So what I'm pretty much going to do here is just extrude, right click, and kind of move where I want it to be. Let's say right here. Extrude, right click, and then move. Alright, so let's say I insert a loop through here, and then I select this, inset, and then you can use loop tools and then circle. Loop Tools is a free add-on that comes with Blender, you just need to activate it. I'll also change the material as well. Alright, so I'm going to inset this and extrude and then scale and inset. Alright, I'm going to press Ctrl 3 to apply subdivision, surface with 3 levels, and we're going to just shade smooth. Alright, so you can see we got some distortion happening here, but let us insert some loops for sharpness. Alright, so you can definitely see what's happening here. We're getting this kind of thing right here where we have a really lopsided reflection. So sometimes it's a good idea to use a material with higher reflections. So you can see this kind of thing happening here. So in other situations it'll be more extreme, and sometimes it'll be more subtle like this. So what I would do here to show you how to do this better is just A, select everything, Shift D, middle click, and right here. So 2 examples side by side. Alright, for this one on the bottom, what you can do is you can either, for example, select these 2 edges and then bevel with segments just set to 1, the minimum. So we've got this. Now you can select this vertex, GG, move that up. Make sure you have auto merge vertices on. That's one thing you can do. What you can also do is use the knife tool and then once again GG these vertices. Alright, so what you want to pay attention to is this specularity right here. In fact, maybe it's a little bit too sharp here. Let's maybe remove this, Control X. Alright, so with that change, you already see an improvement in the specularity, the reflection. Notice how the top one here is very kind of angled and curvy, whereas this one is much straighter right here. However, to make it even better in this situation, You never really want to have this kind of topology when you want to have a change in plane or some sort of curve right here. You don't want this kind of topology right here. So we're going to change the topology even further. We're going to cut from here to here. And also from here to here. Control X to remove the edges and vertices. And so now you can see how we change the topology to be more friendly with changes in the plane. And now it's much easier to do a larger curve here as well. You won't get problems happening there. Whereas with this loop topology, there will be lots of problems with this kind of change. Let me undo. Once again, a loop for sharpness. And actually what I'm going to do here is I will Shift D. So on the bottom is like the most perfect thing you could do. What I'm going to do for this one is replicate what I did previously. And I'm just going to fix it up a little bit by knifing right here. So essentially, top is the worst, middle is better, bottom is the best. So for the top, we have this happening here, this kind of loop happening right where the plane is changing. So right in this angle, we don't want that. So with the better example, we've improved that. We now have this isolation happening here. However, we still have this topology, this loop happening right here. With the best example, we've gotten rid of that. We now have this happening. And in order to understand why this is the best solution on the bottom, just take a look at the highlights, the reflections. Top has this curve, middle has less of a curve but still has some kind of distortions happening here, whereas the bottom is just perfectly even and straight here. And once again, let's say you want to have a curve happening right here. Well, if I selected these and do bevel, we now have this happening here, which is obviously something we don't want. Whereas on the bottom example, I can select this and bevel with no problem. Thank you for watching and take care.